The rain hammered the roof like accusations unspoken, each drop a reminder of the silences that had woven themselves into the fabric of our marriage. I found the letter tucked between the pages of Lydia's worn journal. Its ink faded but the words sharp as shattered glass. I can't keep pretending. The part of me you never saw is screaming. My hands trembled as I folded it back, the paper whispering against my skin like a confession I wasn't ready to hear. In that moment, staring at the empty space beside me on the bed where she used to curl like a question mark, I realized our life together had been a beautiful lie, one built on love, yes, but shadowed by secrets that neither of us had dared to name. Portland's autumn draped the city in veils of amber and crimson, the leaves spiraling down like forgotten promises from the maples lining our street in the Hawthorne district. Our bungalow, with its gingerbread trim and porch swing creaking under the weight of potted ferns, had always felt like a sanctuary, a place where Lydia and I could escape the humid ghosts of our North Carolina roots. We had met there, in the sticky heat of a Raleigh summer 12 years ago, at a backyard barbecue where the air smelled of barbecue smoke and magnolia blooms. She was 22, fresh out of community college, with straight dark hair that fell like a curtain over hazel eyes that held the warmth of sun-dappled creeks. I was 23, a barista with dreams of opening my own bookstore, my curls wild and untamed, much like the restlessness I carried from my family's tobacco farm in the Piedmont. Our wedding had been simple, under a live oak in Wilmington, the ocean's murmur a soft underscore to our vows. "I choose you, every shadowed valley and sunlit peak," Lydia had said, her voice steady as the tide. And I believed her. We built a life on those words, moved west for the rain-kissed reinvention Portland promised, adopted a tabby cat named Juniper who prowled the windowsills like a sentinel, and filled our shelves with dog-eared copies of Toni Morrison and Alice Walker. But lately the house felt heavier, as if the wooden floors absorbed the unsaid words between us. It started with the silences. Lydia, who once filled our evenings with stories of her childhood, racing barefoot through cornfields, stealing kisses under the harvest moon, now retreated into her sketchbook, her pencil strokes frantic, etching landscapes that bled into abstract swirls of blue and gray. "Just work stress," she'd murmur when I'd ask, her freelance graphic design gigs piling up like autumn leaves. But I saw the way her gaze lingered on the couples passing our window, the women with linked arms laughing into the drizzle, their ease a mirror to something fractured in her. The letter was the first crack. I hadn't meant to pry. I was searching for her allergy meds in the nightstand, the one she needed for the ragweed that drifted in from the Willamette Valley. Instead, my fingers brushed the journal, its leather cover soft as aged skin. The letter slipped out, addressed to no one, dated 3 months prior. I shouldn't have read it. God, I shouldn't have. But the words pulled me in, a riptide of ink and desperation. "I remember the way your hands felt on my skin, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. It's been 15 years, Alara, and I still wake up chasing that ghost." Lydia, who married a man because that's what they told me love looked like. But it was you. Always you. Alara. The name landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading through the chambers of my heart. Who was she? A college fling? A summer romance buried in the red clay of the South? Lydia had never spoken of her. Not in the lazy afternoons we'd spent tangled in hammocks back east, not in the quiet drives along the Columbia Gorge where we'd name the peaks after our future children. We had talked of kids once, adoption papers half filled on the kitchen table, but life had a way of deferring dreams. I sat on the edge of the bed, the letter clutched in my fist, the room tilting like a ship unmoored. Juniper leaped onto my lap, her purr a feeble anchor, but my mind raced ahead to the woman I barely recognized in the hallway mirror. Clara Ellis, 35, wife, dreamer, now unwitting guardian of a secret that tasted like ash. Betrayal? The word clawed at me, but beneath it lay something deeper, a wound not just to our bond, but to the version of Lydia I thought I knew. Had our love been a compromise all along? A beautiful facade for a heart divided? That night she came home late, the scent of coffee and rain clinging to her coat. "Rough day at the co-op," she said, hanging her keys on the hook shaped like a heron. Her smile was a fragile thing, porcelain thin, and I wanted to shatter it with questions, to demand the truth like a storm breaking over the Cascades. Instead, I pulled her into an embrace, her body stiffening for a heartbeat before melting against mine. We made love in the dim light of the salt lamp, her touches urgent, almost pleading, as if she sensed the chasm widening between us. Afterward, lying in the tangle of sheets, I traced the curve of her shoulder, the skin there marked by a faint scar from a childhood fall, a reminder of her vulnerability I had always cherished. But as her breathing evened into sleep, I stared at the ceiling, the shadows dancing like unspoken accusations. The wound had opened, raw and pulsing, and I didn't know if it would heal or fester. Outside, the rain softened to a whisper, washing the streets clean, but inside the storm raged on. I thought of Alara, a phantom name etched in my mind, and wondered if she was the silent witness to Lydia's hidden pain, or if that role now fell to me. Days blurred into a haze of routine laced with suspicion. I'd catch myself watching her across the breakfast table, the way her fork paused midair, lost in some distant reverie. At the bookstore I finally opened, pages unbound, a nook filled with queer lit and local zines. I'd shelve volumes of Audre Lorde, her words on the erotics of anger resonating like a distant thunder. "Your silence will not protect you," she wrote, and I wondered if Lydia's quiet was armor or surrender. One evening as the sun dipped behind Mount Hood, painting the sky in strokes of rose and indigo, I confronted the journal again. This time I read deeper. Entries from our early years, joyful sketches of our first apartment, then a shift, pages filled with doubt, dreams of hands that weren't mine, landscapes that evoked Vermont's rolling greens rather than Oregon's evergreens. Alara emerged in fragments. A painter from Burlington, met at an art retreat in the Appalachians, their summer ablaze of stolen moments in haylofts and moonlit streams. "She saw the parts of me Mama tried to pray away," Lydia wrote. "The girl who loved dresses and dirt bikes, who kissed boys to fit but dreamed of girls' soft edges." My chest tightened, a vice of empathy and ache. This wasn't just a secret. It was a burial. Lydia, raised in a Baptist household where love was a straight line from altar to cradle, had chosen me, the safe harbor, the man who adored her without question. But what of the girl she silenced? The one who yearned for the curve of a woman's hip, the whisper of shared secrets in the dark? I closed the journal, the weight of it heavy in my lap. The wound wasn't betrayal. It was the realization that our love, for all its tenderness, had been built on half-truths. And now, with Alara's ghost between us, I had to decide. Pull Lydia closer, into the light of honesty, or let the shadows claim us both. As November's chill seeped through the cracks in the window panes, I began to notice the signs I'd overlooked. The way Lydia lingered over old photos on her phone, her thumb hovering over a faded image of two women arm in arm against a snowy backdrop. Vermont, the caption read. My heart stuttered. I wanted to rage, to demand why she hadn't trusted me with this piece of her soul, but rage felt like salt in an open cut. Instead, I chose quiet observation, becoming the silent witness she perhaps needed. We walked the waterfront one gray afternoon, the Willamette lapping at the docks like hesitant confessions. Seagulls wheeled overhead, their cries sharp against the foghorn's low moan. "Do you ever miss home?" I asked, my arm linked through hers. She paused, her gaze on the bridge's arched silhouette. "Parts of it. The wildness, you know? The way the rivers carve their own paths." Her voice carried a lilt, the soft drawl of Carolina surfacing like a buried spring. I squeezed her hand. "We could go back. Visit. Unearth some ghosts." Her laugh was brittle like frost on glass. "Ghosts have a way of following you, Clara." That night, as she slept, I slipped into the study and typed Alara's name into the search bar, my fingers hesitant on the keys. The screen filled with hits. Alara Voss, artist, Burlington, Vermont. Exhibitions in galleries from Asheville to Portland. A website bloomed with canvases alive with light. Women in fields of goldenrod, their faces turned to unseen horizons, eyes alight with a quiet fire. One painting stopped me cold. Two figures entwined under a harvest moon, shadows blending into one. Tears blurred the screen. This was no affair. It was a lifeline Lydia had reached for in her youth, severed by fear and expectation. The wound deepened, carving into my own insecurities. Had I been enough? But beneath the hurt, a flicker of understanding stirred. Love, I realized, wasn't possession. It was witness, and I would bear it for her, for us. Yet as the cursor blinked accusingly, I felt the fracture widen. How do you heal a heart that has lied to itself for so long? The rain returned relentless, drumming a requiem for the woman I thought I married. And in its rhythm I heard the first faint call of something new. Not the end, but the arduous path to rebirth. The fracture came not with a crash, but a slow, inexorable splintering, like ice yielding to the river's patient insistence. It was mid-November now, the Portland streets slick with fallen leaves that clung to boots like regrets. Lydia's sketches had evolved into feverish portraits, women with eyes like storm-tossed seas, their poses evocative of longing deferred. I watched her from the doorway of our studio, the one we'd converted from the garage, her back to me as she layered charcoal over canvas, the air thick with the scent of graphite and turpentine. "You're creating something beautiful," I said one evening, stepping closer, my reflection ghostly in the window behind her. She startled, smudging a line, her hazel eyes meeting mine in the mirror's frame. "It's nothing. Just memories surfacing." Her voice was a thread frayed at the edges. I nodded, swallowing the questions that burned like bile. Instead, I brewed chamomile tea, the steam curling like unspoken pleas, and we sat on the porch swing, the chains groaning under our weight. Juniper twined between our ankles, oblivious to the tension humming like a live wire. "Tell me about your day," I prompted, desperate for the normalcy we'd lost. She sipped slowly, her gaze on the street lamp's halo, where moths danced in futile orbits. "A client wants rebrands for a queer bookstore in Selwood. Reminded me of us starting out." A pause heavy as fog. "Do you ever wonder if we rushed? If there's more out there?" The words hung between us, a chasm disguised as conversation. My heart stuttered, the letters' echo reverberating. "More than this." I gestured to the bungalow, the life we'd stitched from dreams and compromises. She reached for my hand, her palm cool and dry. "Not more. Just fuller. Like filling in the blanks of a half-drawn map." That night, the fracture deepened. I woke to the murmur of her voice on the phone, hushed tones filtering from the kitchen. "I can't. Not yet. It's complicated." A pause, then softer. "Alara, please." I froze in the hallway shadow, my bare feet silent on the oak. Alara. The name conjured her website's images. Bold strokes of color capturing women's quiet revolutions. Was this a call to reignite an old flame? Or a desperate grasp for the self she'd buried? I retreated to the bedroom, curling into the sheets still warm from her side, the ache in my chest blooming into something sharper. Not just jealousy, but a profound loneliness. Who was this stranger in my wife's skin? Morning brought a fragile truce. We drove to the coast, the Pacific's roar a bomb against the silence. Cannon Beach stretched before us, Haystack Rock a sentinel against the slate-gray waves. Lydia collected sea glass, her fingers sifting through pebbles like searching for lost pieces of herself. "Remember our first trip here?" she asked, holding up a shard of cobalt blue. "You said the ocean holds every secret we've ever whispered." I smiled, though it felt borrowed. "And you said secrets are just stories waiting for the right teller." We walked the Titterline, the sand cold and yielding, gulls tracing arcs overhead. For a moment the fracture mended in the salt air, our laughter mingling with the surf's sigh. But as the sun broke through, gilding the foam, she grew distant again, her eyes on the horizon where sea met sky in an endless embrace. Back home, the splintering accelerated. Packages arrived. Books on identity and desire, slipped into plain wrappers. I found one open on the counter, The Lesbian Heresy by Sheila Jeffries, pages dog-eared at chapters on compulsory heterosexuality. My hand shook as I shelved it beside our shared reads, the spine a silent indictment. Lydia noticed, of course. "Clara, we need to talk." We sat at the kitchen island, the quartz countertop a barrier between us. Her face was pale, etched with the exhaustion of a long-held breath. I saw the journal. The letter. The words tumbled out, raw and unvarnished. "Alara. She's from before. A summer that changed everything, but I walked away because I was scared. Scared of what it meant for me, for family, for normal. Normal." The word landed like a slap, echoing the sermons of her youth, the expectations that chained us both. "And now," I whispered, my voice a reed in the wind. She leaned forward, tears tracing silver paths down her cheeks. "Now it's breaking me open. I love you, Claire, God I do. But there's a part of me that's been starving, and I don't know how to feed it without hurting us." The fracture split wide, the air between us charged with grief. I stood, pacing to the window where rain traced erratic paths down the pane. "So what? You reach out to her? Rewrite our story with someone who knew the girl I never met?" Anger flared, hot and unbidden, mingling with the sorrow that pooled in my gut. No. Her cry was a sob, hands outstretched. I called to say goodbye, to close the door. But it's not that simple. It's about me. Facing the lies I told myself to fit into this life we built. We shattered then, words flying like shards. Accusations of deception, defenses laced with pain. You made me the villain in your coming out story. I hurled, though even as it left my lips, I knew it wasn't true. She crumpled, whispering apologies that dissolved into the storm outside. I stormed to the bookstore, the bell above the door jangling like a warning, and buried myself in inventory, the scent of paper and ink a temporary salve. Days passed in a numb drift. Lydia slept on the couch, Juniper a furry bridge between us. I threw myself into the shop, recommending Fun Home to customers with knowing nods. The graphic memoirs, layers mirroring our unraveling. Friends noticed, our weekly dinners with the neighbors skipped, texts unanswered. Everything okay? My best friend Nora messaged, her concern a lifeline I ignored. One night the breaking point arrived. I came home to find Lydia packing a bag. Her movements deliberate, eyes red-rimmed. I need space, Clara, to sort this out. Alone. The words were a blade, severing the last tether. Where? My voice cracked, the bungalow suddenly vast and echoing. A cabin in the Cascades. Just a week. To think. She zipped the duffel, the sound final as a door slamming. At the threshold she turned, her hand on the knob. This isn't goodbye. It's breathing room. She left, the door clicking shut like a period at the end of a sentence. I sank to the floor, Juniper nosing my face, her warmth a poor substitute for the woman who'd been my world. The fracture had become a chasm, dark and yawning, filled with echoes of what-ifs. What if I'd asked sooner? What if love demanded more than comfort, demanded truth even when it burned? In the quiet, I wandered her studio, the portraits staring back like accusations. One unfinished canvas caught my eye. A woman split in two, one half shadowed, the other bathed in dawn's light, hands reaching across the divide. Me, her, us. Tears fell hot and unheeding as I traced the lines. The pain was visceral, a hollowing out, but in its depths a seed stirred, curiosity perhaps, or the first whisper of empathy. I called Nora that night, her voice a beacon in the dark. Come over, she said. Wine and witches will hex the hurt. Her apartment in Alberta Arts was a riot of color, tapestries and crystals warding off despair. Over Merlot and vulnerability I spilled it all, the letter, the calls, the packing. Nora listened, her dark eyes steady, then pulled me into a hug. This isn't the end, Clara. It's the crack where the light gets in. Her words lingered as I drove home through mist-shrouded streets, the city lights blurring into constellations. The bungalow loomed, empty and accusatory, but as I lit candles in the window, beeswax flames flickering like hesitant hopes, I felt the fracture shift. Not healed but acknowledged. Lydia's pain was mine now, intertwined, and in bearing it, I glimpsed the possibility of mending, not back to what was but forward to something truer. Yet sleep evaded me, the bed vast as an ocean. I dreamed of rivers carving canyons, of roots delving deep into fractured earth. And in the dream Lydia's voice called from the far bank, help me cross. Dawn broke gray and forgiving, the first snow dusting the eaves like a tentative peace. The chasm remained, but I stood at its edge, ready to bridge it, not with anger, but with the quiet strength of witness. The encounter arrived unannounced, wrapped in the crisp bite of December's first frost. When Portland's bridges gleamed like silver veins under a reluctant sun. Lydia had been gone 10 days, the cabin in the Cascades her self-imposed exile, texts sporadic. Hiking today. Miss you. Each ping a breadcrumb leading me deeper into uncertainty. I filled the hours at Pages Unbound, the shop's bell a rhythmic heartbeat amid the holiday bustle. Customers seeking gifts of solace in poetry and prose. It was a Tuesday, the air humming with the scent of pine from wreaths hung on lampposts, when she walked in. Tall, with blonde hair cropped short like wheat after harvest, framing a face all angles and quiet intensity. Blue eyes, sharp as Vermont sapphires, scanned the shelves before landing on me behind the counter. Looking for something on local artists, she said, her voice carrying the lilt of New England winters. Alara Voss recommended this place. Alara. The name hung in the air, a spark to dry tinder. My pulse quickened, but I schooled my features into professional warmth. Voss? She's got a show at the Pearl District Gallery next month. Try this. I slid a monograph across the oak counter. Its cover a swirl of ochre and azure. Her influences shine through here. She took it, fingers long and paint-stained, flipping pages with a reverence that spoke of shared craft. You know her work? Up close she was striking, freckles dusting her nose like constellations, a faint scar above her lip from some youthful adventure. Seen it online, I replied, casual as fog. The way she captures light. It's like she's painting emotions, not just landscapes. A lie half true. I'd pored over those images in the dead of night, seeking clues to the woman who'd haunted my wife's heart. Her smile was tentative, a crack in winter's armor. That's her gift. And yours. She nodded at the shop's eclectic mix. Feminist theory beside cozy mysteries. Clara Ellis. Owner, curator of chaos. I extended a hand, her grip firm, callous from brushes and clay. Riley Kane. Sculptor, wanderer. Just passing through after a residency in Olympia. We chatted then, the conversation flowing like the Willamette at thaw. Art's redemptive power, Portland's quirky soul, the ache of leaving roots behind. She bought the book too, actually, adding a volume of Mary Oliver's poems, For the Wild Geese Calling in the Heart's Quiet Marshes. As she turned to leave, bells tinkling farewell, she paused. Alara mentioned a friend here, a writer maybe? Lydia something. The world tilted, the shop's warm lights suddenly stark. My wife, I said, the word a shield and a sword. Her eyes widened fractionally, understanding dawning like sunrise over the gorge. Ah, small world, tangled vines. No pity, just a nod of quiet solidarity. Tell her. The snow in the greens is as unforgiving as memory, but it melts. She left, the door swinging shut on a gust of chill air, leaving me adrift in the scent of her wool coat, cedar and clay. My hands trembled as I restocked shelves, Oliver's words mocking from the display. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. Riley. Not Alara but connected, a thread in the web. I texted Lydia that night, fingers flying. A customer today, sculptor named Riley Kane. New Alara. Set to tell you about melting snow. No response for hours then. Small world. Be home soon. Love. Love. The word anchored me through the evening's close, as I locked up and wandered the Pearl District, galleries aglow with openings. Alara's exhibit pulled me like gravity. Canvases vast as skies, women emerging from mist-shrouded woods, their gazes direct, unapologetic. One piece stopped me. Silent Witness, titled in elegant script. A figure half-turned, back to the viewer, hand extended toward a shadowed companion, the space between them alive with unspoken yearning. Light pierced the gloom, golden shafts suggesting dawn's promise. I stood transfixed, tears pricking, the painting a mirror to my soul's tumult. Was this Alara's apology? Her tribute to Lydia's ghost? A gallery attendant approached, her name tag reading intern, MFA candidate. Powerful, right? Voss says it's about the loves we leave behind. Not with regret but reverence. Reverence. The word settled in my chest, softening the encounter's edges. I bought a print, small enough to tuck into my bag. Its weight a talisman as I drove home through streets strung with lights like fallen stars. Lydia returned at week's end, her duffel thudding to the floor like a full stop. She looked changed, hair windswept, cheeks flushed from mountain air, eyes clearer, as if the cascades had scrubbed away some inner grime. We embraced in the foyer, bodies remembering before words could wound. I missed this, she murmured into my neck, her breath warm against my skin. Over dinner, roast chicken and greens from the co-op, candlelight dancing shadows on the walls, she spoke haltingly of the cabin. Solitary hikes through fir groves, journals filled with unfiltered truths. I wrote letters to Alara, to Mama, to the girl I was, burned them in the fireplace. Ashes to earth. And Riley's message? I probed gently, passing the bread. She smiled faintly, buttering a slice. Alara's partner now. They met years after. She reached out when I called, said Riley was in town. No drama, just closure. Closure. The word tasted bittersweet. A key turning in a long locked door. We cleared plates, migrated to the couch, Juniper claiming Lydia's lap as if no time had passed. But the encounter lingered, a catalyst. I met her today, I confessed. Riley. At the shop. Lydia's hand stilled in the cat's fur. What was she like? Kind. Grounded. Like someone who's walked through fire and come out forged. I described the conversation, the Oliver book, omitting the painting's Pierce. She saw us somehow. Without judgment. Tears welled in Lydia's eyes, spilling over. That's what I want for us. To see each other fully. No more hiding. We talked then, deep into the night, voices weaving through the lamplight like rivers converging. She recounted the summer with Alara. Bonfires in Appalachian hollows, shared canvases under star-pricked skies, the terror of desire that defied Sunday school hymns. I thought it was a phase, a detour. Chose you because you were home, steady, loving. But it left a hollow, Clara. One I filled with pretending. I listened, my heart a drumbeat of compassion and fear. And now? Does seeing her change us? She took my hands, her grip fervent. It frees us. To build something honest. If you'll have the whole of me. The encounter had bridged the chasm, not with ease but with raw possibility. We made love that night, slower, more exploratory. Touches lingering on curves and hollows, eyes locked in mutual revelation. Dawn found us entwined, the snow outside a blank canvas. But encounters ripple. Days later, Riley returned to the shop, this time with sketches under arm. Thought you might like these for the walls. Trade for coffee. Her grin was easy, but her eyes held a depth, as if she sensed the fragile newness in my step. We talked again longer, her life in Burlington's artist co-ops, the solace of stone under her chisels. Alara and I were mirrors for each other, she said over steaming mugs. Helped her heal old wounds. Maybe that's what love does. Hold space for the unfinished. Unfinished. The word echoed as she left, promising to return for the opening. I hung her sketches, abstract forms evoking waves and wings, beside the counter, their presence a quiet invitation. Lydia noticed that evening, tracing the lines with a finger. Beautiful. Like her. Jealousy flickered, faint as a moth's wing, but I quenched it with truth. She reminds me we're all works in progress. Holiday lights twinkled as December deepened, the city a tapestry of resilience. Lydia's portraits bloomed with color now, women stepping into light, hands clasped. Our walks resumed, arms linked against the cold, conversations turning to futures unscripted. The encounter with Riley wasn't closure. It was ignition. A spark illuminating paths we hadn't dared tread. Yet in quiet moments doubt whispered. Could I love the whole of her, the parts that once belonged to another? The answer stirred, tentative as first light. Yes. And in that yes, the seeds of understanding took root, promising a harvest of forgiveness yet to come. Understanding crept in like the first crocuses of spring, tentative and unassuming, piercing the frost-hardened soil of our shared silences. January wrapped Portland in a hush of hoarfrost, the Willamette frozen at the edges, mirroring the tentative thaw between Lydia and me. We had recommitted in whispers and touches, but forgiveness was a deeper river, one that required navigation through submerged currents of hurt and hope. It began with small acts, Lydia leaving notes in my lunch, quotes from Adrienne Rich. The moment of change is the only poem, scrawled in her looping script. I reciprocated with playlists of Joan Baez and Tracy Chapman, their voices filling the bungalow like hearth smoke. Juniper approved, batting at the speakers as if to punctuate the melodies. But the true unraveling came on a Saturday, when Riley invited us to her pop-up studio in the East Bank, a warehouse space alive with welder sparks and the hum of creativity. Bring wine, her text read. No expectations, just clay and conversation. Lydia hesitated, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. We don't have to, if it's too soon. But I saw the curiosity in her eyes, the pull toward closure's gentle hand. Let's go. Together. We arrived as dusk bled into indigo, the esplanade's lights reflecting like scattered diamonds on the river. Riley greeted us at the door, apron dusted with ochre, her smile a bridge over uncertain waters. Glad you came. Alara sends sketches, says Portland suits you both. The studio was a sanctuary of form, torsos emerging from raw earth, wings half-furled from marble. We sipped Syrah from mismatched mugs, the air rich with damp clay and possibility. Lydia's gaze roamed the pieces, lingering on a sculpture of two figures back to back, spines aligned yet facing opposite horizons. This one's yours, she asked Riley, voice soft as river mist. Riley nodded, wiping her hands on a rag. Divergence. About paths that split but roots that entwine. She glanced between us, her blue eyes steady. Alara painted something similar last year. We all carry those echoes. Conversation flowed then, unforced. Art as therapy. The South's lingering shadows on queer hearts. Lydia spoke haltingly of her summer with Alara. Not as confession but reclamation. The joy of unbridled touch, the terror of its impermanence. I ran because I thought love had rules. Straight lines, white dresses. Riley leaned against a workbench, her posture open. Rules bend. Alara taught me that. We met when she was still untangling you. Messy, beautiful. No blame, just growth. No blame. The word settled in me like sunlight on chilled stone. I shared fragments of my own buried aches. Not romantic, but the farm girl's yearning for city's pulse, the fear of never quite fitting. Laughter broke through, tentative at first, then full. Riley recounting a disastrous glaze firing that turned pots to molten regret. By evening's end, as we bundled against the night's bite, hugs exchanged felt like permissions granted. Driving home, the Burnside Bridge humming beneath tires, Lydia reached for my hand. Thank you. For that. For seeing. Understanding bloomed in the gesture. Petals unfurling in my chest. We're seeing now. Forgiveness followed in layers, like varnish on canvas. February brought Valentine's. Not cards but a weekend in the Oregon Coast Range. A rented A-frame overlooking evergreen canyons. Snow blanketed the paths, muffling the world to whispers. We hiked to a frozen waterfall, its ice a translucent veil, and there amid crystalline hush, Lydia knelt in the drift, pulling a small box from her coat. Not a ring, we'd exchanged those vows long ago, but a pair of pendants, silver rivers intertwined, etched with witness on the clasp. For the silent parts, she said, fastening mine around my neck. The ones we honor, not hide. Tears froze on my lashes as I clasped hers, our foreheads touching in the cold. Forgive me, I whispered. For the anger. For not asking sooner. Forgive me, she echoed. For the silence. For making you carry it alone. We forgave there, not in grand absolutions, but in the quiet alchemy of presence. The way our breaths mingled in plumes, the shared weight of stepping back toward the cabin. Inside, fire crackling, we read aloud from The Price of Salt. Patricia Highsmith's words, a balm on old wounds. Lovers navigating society's gales with fierce tenderness. Back in Portland, understanding deepened through ritual. Wednesdays became truth evenings. No phones, just tea and tales. Alternating turns to unearth buried stories. Lydia spoke of church youth groups, stolen glances at camp counselors. I confessed envies of my brother's ease in the world. Each revelation a stone lifted from our chests, lightening the load. Riley wove in peripherally, her sculptures dotting our home. A small bust of intertwined hands on the mantel. She and Alara visited once, a dinner of potluck abundance. Alara's warm laugh like aged bourbon, her dark curls a cascade echoing Lydia's youth. No awkwardness, just women orbiting shared orbits, stories crossing like constellations. To healing. Alara toasted, glasses clinking like bells. And in her eyes I saw not a rival, but a sister in the quiet revolution of self. Forgiveness wasn't linear. Shadows lingered. A nightmare woke me once. Lydia vanishing into mist, Alara's hand pulling her away. I shook her gently, voice thick. Stay. She held me through the dark, murmuring. I'm here. Whole. Dawn brought clarity. Forgiveness as choice, renewed daily like tending a flame. March arrived with cherry blossoms rioting pink against slate skies, the city awakening in tandem with us. Lydia's portraits sold at a local fair. Women radiant, unapologetic. I curated a healing narrative shelf at the shop. Volumes of Audre Lorde and Cheryl Strayed drawing seekers like moths. Riley's opening drew us all, her installations evoking rebirth. Forms rising from ash, light-piercing voids. Standing amid the crowd, Lydia's arm around my waist, I felt the river of understanding run full, clear, deep, carrying us forward. Forgiveness had mended the fractures not with glue, but growth. New tissue stronger for the scar. We're poets now, Lydia whispered. Writing our way home. And in that homecoming the light of empathy burned steady, illuminating the path to rebirth. The pendants warmed against our skin, silent witnesses to a love reforged. Not despite the pain but through it. Rebirth unfolded in the verdant hush of April, when Portland shed its gray mantle for a cloak of emerald and bloom, the air perfumed with lilac and possibility. The bungalow stirred awake alongside us, windows flung open to birdsong, juniper chasing sunbeams across revived rugs. Lydia and I had traversed the chasm, hand in hand, emerging not unscathed but transformed, our love a phoenix etched in subtler flames. Less blaze, more enduring glow. It started with the garden. Our backyard, long neglected under rhododendron's shade, became a canvas. Lydia, ever the artist, sketched plans over breakfast. Raised beds for herbs, a trellis for climbing roses, a stone bench facing the fence's wild blackberries. Roots, she said, her hazel eyes alight. Literal and otherwise. We dug in on a sun-dappled Saturday, soil rich and loamy under our gloves, worms wriggling like secrets unearthed. Sweat beaded on our brows as we turned earth, laughter bubbling when a spade unearthed a buried crockery shard, porcelain etched with faded blue forget-me-nots. A relic, I quipped, holding it to the light. Like us, broken but beautiful. She kissed the dirt from my cheek, her lips soft as petal fall. Stronger for the mending. The labor mirrored our inner work. Patient, gritty, yielding abundance. As shoots pierce soil, basil's emerald spikes times fragrant creepers, Lydia's sketches returned to the studio, now infused with life. Portraits evolved into series. Rivers reborn. Women wading currents, faces upturned to skies clearing after storm. One piece, witness and wave, depicted two figures, one auburn-curled, the other dark-maned, standing ankle-deep in froth, hands clasped, horizons unfolding. I watched her paint it, brushstrokes deliberate as vows renewed. Is this us? I asked, leaning in the doorway, steam from afternoon tea curling between us. Us and more, she replied, dipping into cerulean. The woman I was, the one I'm becoming. With you. Rebirth demanded outward steps too. Lydia enrolled in a queer writer's workshop at Powell's, her prose, vignettes of southern summers laced with longing, read aloud to nods of recognition. I joined a book club focused on intersectional feminisms, voices diverse as the Willamette's tributaries challenging my once narrow lens. Nora hosted gatherings, our circle expanding to include Riley and Alara on video calls from Vermont, their farmstead a backdrop of sugaring pans and snowmelt streams. One evening, as azaleas burst coral along the fence, Lydia proposed a road trip. East to the Cascades, then north to the Columbia Gorge's thundering vales. To mark it, she said. The before and after. We packed the Subaru with tent and thermoses, Juniper's carrier a mewling passenger. The drive wound through fir cathedrals, windows down to pine-scented gusts. At Multnomah Falls, mist rainbowed in the spray, we climbed the stone steps hand in hand, pausing at the bridge where water roared like liberated truths. Here, Lydia said, pulling me close against the rail. I let go of the girl who hid. I traced her jaw, the line softened by months of grace, and claimed this one. Camped that night under a canopy of stars, Orion's belt a silver buckle. We shared a fire's warmth, flames licking logs as stories spilled. She recounted dreams reborn, exhibiting her series in Raleigh, confronting her mother's faded photo with a letter of peace. I voiced mine, expanding the shop into events, readings on healing, panels on love's many shapes. Dawn painted the tent gold, birds heralding a new chapter. As we broke camp, folding canvas like folded doubts, I felt the rebirth settle. Not a sudden bloom but steady unfurling, leaves reaching for sun. Back home the garden thrived, tomatoes blushing red, lavender nodding in breeze. Lydia's workshop yielded her first chapbook, Silent Currents, bound in linen, gifted to me with the inscription. To Clara, my river steady, deep, eternal. I cried reading it under the porch swing, pages damp with gratitude, the words a testament to scars transmuted into song. Rebirth rippled outward. We volunteered at a youth center in southeast Portland, Lydia leading art sessions for queer teens, her presence a beacon. Your story isn't a secret, it's a superpower. I facilitated book circles, watching faces light as narratives mirrored their own. Riley sent a sculpture, Emergence, a bronze figure rising from coiled roots, for the center's garden, its form a quiet anthem. Challenges arose as rebirths do. A letter from Lydia's sister, laced with concern-tinged judgment, probing our phase. We answered together, words measured and kind. We're blooming, not breaking. My own doubts surfaced in quiet hours, fears of inadequacy in this expanded love, but Lydia met them with patience, our bed a harbor for vulnerabilities shared. May crowned us with dogwood's white fire, the city festival bound. At the Hawthorne Street Fair we manned a booth for the shop in Lydia's prints, the air alive with buskers' fiddles and falafel spice. A young woman paused at witness and wave, her eyes wide. It's me. Thank you. Lydia signed a print, voice thick. It's us all. As twilight deepened, string lights igniting like fireflies, we danced in the street to a bluegrass band's twang. Steps clumsy, hearts aligned. The pendant at my throat warmed, its river etchings a pulse matching hers. Rebirth wasn't perfection, it was presence. Tending the garden daily, weeding doubts, watering dreams. In Lydia's arms that night, porch swing swaying to cricket chorus, I whispered, "We're alive again." She smiled against my temple. New. Whole. And in that wholeness the light beckoned, no longer distant but woven into our very breath. A tapestry of scars and stars, promising dawn's endless grace. The light arrived fully in June, not as a flood but a gradual unveiling, the solstice sun stretching days into golden reveries, bathing Portland in a haze of warmth that coaxed roses to riot along every fence. Our bungalow, once a vessel for shadows, now hummed with the easy rhythm of lives reknit, windows aglow till 10, laughter spilling onto the lawn where fireflies would soon dance. Lydia and I had journeyed from wound to light, our love a lantern held steady through tempests, illuminating not just each other, but the wider world we touched. It crystallized at the gallery opening for Lydia's Rivers Reborn series. The Pearl District's white walls transformed into a riverine dreamscape. Canvases span 30 feet, women fording streams emerging luminous, companions at their sides, some hand in hand, others shoulder to shoulder, all facing east toward unseen dawns. Friends thronged the space. Nora in a sundress of wild print, Riley and Alara flown in, their presence a bridge from past to present. Clara Voss, no Alara Voss, approached Lydia first, her dark curls pinned with a wildflower, eyes soft as aged wine. "You've captured it," she said, gesturing to the central piece. Two figures, one with auburn waves, the other dark tresses, locked in an embrace amid swirling blues. The flow. The return. Lydia's hand found mine, squeezing. "Thanks to witnesses like you." The toast came at midnight, flutes raised under skylights moon-silvered. To cries answered, Riley intoned, her blue eyes twinkling, and healings shared. Glasses chimed, a cascade of crystal notes, and in that moment the light flooded me, not blinding but clarifying, washing away the last vestiges of doubt. Buyers lingered, stories exchanged. A curator from Seattle moved by silent currents, a local poet tracing her own rebirth in the brushstrokes. After we walked the waterfront, the Willamette a black mirror to city lights, bridges arcing like vows overhead. Lydia leaned into me, her head on my shoulder. "This is what I dreamed of us out loud. And it's just beginning," I murmured, kissing her temple, the pendant's river cool against my skin. Summer deepened the light's embrace. We honeymooned in spirit along the Oregon Trail's echoes, camping in the painted hills, ochre strata a testament to time's patient artistry. Evenings by the fire we'd read from her chapbook, voices blending in harmony, Juniper's tale a metronome. Back home the garden yielded bounty. Salads of heirloom tomatoes, pesto from Basil's bounty, shared with neighbors over block parties where stories flowed freer than wine. The light extended tendrils to family. Lydia's call to her mother, speakerphone on the kitchen table, bridged Carolina miles. "Mama, I'm happy. Truly." With Clara as me. Silence stretched, then a sigh tremulous. "Baby girl, that's all I ever wanted." Tears fell on both ends, a cleansing rain followed by packages. Peach preserves, quilt squares stitched with rivers. My own kin visited in July, the farm aunties arriving with coolers of collards and cornbread, eyes widening at our fancy city life. But warmth won them. Lydia's sketches gifted, garden tours given, evenings on the porch swaying to cicada song. "Y'all glow," one aunt said, patting my hand, "like fireflies in the jar." August brought collaborations. The shop hosted Lydia's workshop, teens and elders alike daubing canvases with truths unspoken. Riley contributed sculptures, Alara virtual critiques, the space alive with creation's hum. A young reader approached me after notebook clutched. "Your shelf on healing? It saved me." Her words, a spark in the light's vastness, reminded me. Our rebirth rippled, touching shores unseen. Yet light holds shadow's memory. A storm in September tested us. Thunder rattling windows, power out, candles our only glow. Huddled under quilts, Lydia confessed a flicker of fear. What if it fades? The newness. I drew her close, heartbeat to heartbeat. Light doesn't fade, it shifts. We're the holders now. October's harvest moon rose full, gilding the leaves in amber fire. We attended a queer harvest festival in the hills, bonfires crackling, fiddles weeping joy. Dancing barefoot in the meadow, skirts swirling, we moved as one, bodies remembering, souls aligned. Forever's a choice, Lydia whispered, spin dizzy. And I choose you. November circled back, anniversaries layered. The letters find, the cabin's solitude, now reframed as sacred markers. We renewed vows informally under the live oak in our backyard, now transplanted roses witnesses, the words simple. I see you, hold you, grow with you. As winter whispered at the edges, the light endured. Not constant blaze but heart's steady warm. Pages unbound thrived, expansions planned. A healing corner with Lydia's art. Her next series brewed. Lanterns, figures bearing flames through dusk, companions' glows intertwining. One eve, as snow dusted the eaves anew, we sat by the window, tea steaming, juniper curled between. Outside the world hushed but inside light abounded. Reflected in her eyes, my smile, the pendant's gleam. We made it, I said, tracing her knuckles. Through, she replied, and to more. The story didn't end. It illuminated onward. A tapestry of pain transfigured, love as eternal witness. In the quiet, with rain tapping a lullaby, we rested in the light we'd claimed. Warm, hopeful, humanly vast. And in its embrace the future unfolded, page by radiant page.